Hello and welcome again to this edition of Florida Internet and Television's FLITV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are once again coming to you just a few blocks from Florida's capital, from the headquarters in Florida Internet and Television. I am joined today by Peter Schorsch, executive editor of FloridaPolitics.com, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're good, amongst other publications,
Various
influence,
properties, right.
magazines.
It's like NBC with the Olympics. You never know what channel we're on that day.
Right. That's great way to put it. Okay, so we're past the mid part of the session.
Right.
We've got a huge issue going on. Let's go ahead and talk about it. It's the Parkland shooting and what's happening right now.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised we can't hear it from right now. There's literally thousands of students from Parkland and from Leon County and from FSU marched on the Capitol today to protest for gun control measures passed by the legislature. I heard one reporter from the Tallahassee Democrats said it was the largest, loudest crowd that they've ever heard at the Capitol. And now we're going to see what happens when the rubber meets the road. Is the Florida legislature going to do anything with 2 weeks left in session?
Yeah, so if we're looking at that issue though, and what passed and what hasn't, how do those kids walk away from that process?
Well, you know, they're getting their first taste of democracy, and that means that they're going to be a little bit disappointed and they're going to be a little bit satisfied, like the rest of us.
Right.
And that means that they're probably going to get a change on the age you can go in and buy a gun like an AR-15, move it from 18 to 21, because why can you buy an AR-15, why can you buy a can of Budweiser, but you can't buy a beer? I'm sorry, I just screwed up that metaphor on Facebook Live.
Right, it's okay.
But you know what I'm saying there.
Right.
And then we're also probably going to have some stronger background checks. We're going to have some hardening of the schools, making some of the doors lockable, have the glass bulletproof. But what we're not going to get is an outlaw of assault weapons, which is what they came up for. The photograph that was on the cover of almost every newspaper in Florida was a poor young girl crying after the Florida House voted not to even consider an assault ban, and so that's really the story right now.
All right, so we've got 2 weeks, right, to go, right? The oxygen clearly has been wiped out by this issue. It's backed everything up. Where does the legislature go from here? What gets passed? What's dead?
Well, this is the time for the obligatory message. They only have to do one thing, which is pass a budget.
Right.
Unfortunately, budget negotiations had stalled out before Parkland. The House has been saying the Senate's not picking up the phone. The Senate is saying pass Joe Negron's priorities, which is a package of higher education initiatives. So they're not talking right now.
Right.
There was talk about a big gambling deal, trying to get the Seminole Compact through. That's important because that $300 or $400 million would be used for the extra mental health treatment, the extra school hardening that people want. So right now everybody's waiting. We've got to deal with Parkland. That's going to take 2 or 3 days. Here's the sad truth of the legislature. You've got members retiring. They're going to eat up time with their retirement speeches.
Right.
That last couple of days, the budget's got to be on the desks 72 hours beforehand. So it's not that we have 2 weeks. We only have a matter of a few days for them to get started.
You think about how the game's changed from what the issues were when we came into session versus where we stand today. I mean,
this was supposed to be the hurricane session.
Right.
I mean, this was supposed to be, we needed to get the utilities hardened, not the schools hardened. We needed to do something about the 13 people who had died at a nursing home, not the 17 people who had died at a school.
Right.
So we got nothing on that. Right. So it's almost really hard to think, what are we going to get done about guns?
Right. Okay, so we move away from the legislature because there's still elections going on amidst all of this, and we've heard the word the blue wave.
Right.
What's happening in these midterm elections?
The blue wave is not a sushi joint. It is an indication that there is a Democratic wave going to hit in 2018. We saw the first evidence of this in a special election last week in Sarasota, where Margaret Good won a seat defeating the son of a Republican congressman in a seat that had gone for Donald Trump. We're seeing that throughout the rest of the country. Last night, a legislative seat in Kentucky that had gone by double digits for Trump went for a Democrat. And so the Democrats are thinking right now, with everything that's going on, all the opposition to the president, that this is their best chance. Problem with the Democrats, as they have done before, is their ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They still have to recruit candidates. They still have to raise money. And they have to still not do things like they did yesterday. There was that issue about bringing that vote back up on the assault weapons ban. Democratic leaders are already fighting about that. Jared Moskowitz from South Florida, who represents Parkland, is criticizing his other Democrats for embarrassing the institution with that vote. So it remains to be seen if there will be a Democratic wave in a midterm election, which Republicans always historically do well at.
Well, and the question that I'm going to ask you is are those successes with the Representative Good from Sarasota and down in the Senate district down in Miami earlier this year, are those smaller victories, are the Democrats able to scale that when you deal with 30 campaigns and you've got a Republican system, a little more of a machine there, Are they going to be competitive?
I think the best metaphor is a football metaphor here. The Republicans are the New England Patriots. They put out a championship caliber team every year.
Right.
Can you beat them on any given Sunday? Well, this Super Bowl, we saw that they were beatable.
Right.
But they've also won 5 championships. They've got the best team. They've got the money. They've got the experience. I will say, just looking up close, having worked with some of the folks there, this is the best Democratic team that I've seen in place in the various campaign arms, House victory, Senate victory, working on the gubernatorial campaigns. Like the people that are running, Phil Levine, Gwen Graham, Andrew Gillum, Chris King, those campaigns are sharp.
Right.
Whereas, the Republicans, they have the money, they have Adam Putnam's got a good team, Corcoran's got, I think, probably the strongest team. Ron DeSantis' team is Brad Harold, and he's still building that out. But the Democrats have the infrastructure there, but again, it's hard to beat New England.
That infrastructure is going to compete against itself, going up to the lead to get to the playing against.
Well, and that's
the Pats of Florida.
What's really interesting. I wrote a really bad blog post today that
we'll make sure we tune in.
It was a reference to the hunt for Red October, so it was obscure, but politics is dynamic.
Right.
To say that we know what the mood is going to be in November, we have no clue.
Right.
We saw that in 2016 with Trump. We have no clue what's going to happen between now and November. Is there going to be another Parkland?
But I would call you back. I would rewind you and I back to the night of the election, the presidential election, and you and I sat there and we're like, we have no idea.
Yep.
We had our guesses.
We did.
But do we think the machine on both sides kicks into gear and we see old-fashioned campaigning, or are we going to see a full new dynamic social? Are we going to get that in an off-cycle gubernatorial election?
Well, just for the record, Brad, I did call Trump by 3 in Florida, just for all the viewers out there. I don't want my bets to be going wrong. Yes,
we're going to do that. You did that the day of.
Oh, yeah, I called it on Wednesday. I said Trump by 3, and I was off.
Genius.
It's going to be. I think it's going to be larger than any singular candidate, and not to use the wave metaphor, but can you ride that in a way?
Right.
There's no way that you're going to control this beast that's out there right now as we're watching it. There's no controlling that. That's what Trump kind of taught us is you don't need this huge infrastructure, this huge Republican Jeb Bush infrastructure.
Right.
You need to be in the right place at the right time, tweeting the right thing.
Right.
And I don't know which of the Democratic candidates. I got to say, Gwen Graham's the front runner, but I feel like Phil Levine and Andrew Gillum are doing the best right now as it relates to the politics of Parkland.
Right. Well, we'll have to stay tuned to Florida Politics to see what the next commentary is. Any new shows you're streaming these days that we need to go catch up on?
I'm in development deals with, it's either Netflix or Hulu. I don't know which one I'm going to go to, but we'll figure it out sooner or later.
Well, that is very nondescript, Peter. Thanks for narrowing that down. So, all right, well, thanks so much for coming on
Thanks
FI
for
TV.
having me.
Appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today's episode of FI TV. We appreciate you tuning in, but before you go, hit us up on our Facebook page and our Twitter page at FLInternetTV. Thanks again for tuning in.